Do you ever get lonely?
Yeah, I think everyone gets lonely.
Loneliness?
Yeah.
All the time. That's almost like a daily struggle.
I often feel very lonely in the city.
What does it feel like?
It feels like being lost, like in a maze.
With no hand reaching out to you, and you just don't really feel like climbing back out, or you just can't climb back out.
It feels like that feeling of like you're about to cry, but you just don't need to.
Everyone is struggling with loneliness in some kind of a way. And that is a realization that I would not have expected as a therapist. And a lot of research actually shows that we're in a loneliness epidemic.
Like I can wake up and be fine, and I'll open my phone. I'll just see like even like a word will like bring that feeling on. I'll be out now. Right now I'm just by myself walking around, and I'll see groups of people, and I'm like, that'd be kind of nice, you know?
Even if it's just simple things like some couple being like randomly PDA. In those moments, it definitely does make me feel a lot more lonely because it's like, oh, I've had those experiences before.
Part of it is from demands of school and then the demands of my job. I live in a studio apartment, so oftentimes it's sort of trying to be comfortable with myself.
I think loneliness for me is not feeling understood. And I definitely don't feel understood if I can't understand myself.
So when we don't feel connected to our values, we don't feel connected to essentially what we wake up to do every day, loneliness is not feeling like you have a place where you belong. And it's hard to know where you belong if you don't know what you want in the world.
There always feels like this greater looming thing in me that brings on sadness. I feel like there's something more than just like, oh, I'm new here and I don't have enough friends.
What's one of the hardest things you've gone through?
Was the passing of my godmother. I feel like that was the big catalyst. I still haven't recovered from that. I'm still very sad.
Loneliness can stem from two things, right? One can be like this loss of our why and our purpose, but it also can be really deep and mental, because when we're struggling with trauma, a loss of mental illness, it's a really isolating experience.
When I lost my parents, I was struggling a lot. I was doing a lot of drinking.
What would you have told yourself back then?
I would have told myself it was okay to hurt.
Because my last relationship, I was cheated on. And so it made me feel very alone because I didn't feel like I was enough for anyone. But I think I just tried to get myself as distracted as possible to try and cope with it, which never really worked. And I think a lot of the healing came from like personal confrontation about it.
I remember being so upset, and I finally said to myself, look, this is who you are. You live in this nasty, disgusting house. All you do is drink. You got nothing to show for it. You either accept that that's you right now, or you do something about it. This is your life now. This is how things are going to be forever unless you do one thing about it.
I was just like writing a bunch, like how I'm feeling in those moments, trying to yell it out as like a way of like venting out my anger and just being like, I'm really pissed off and I'm not gonna filter myself. I do not care.
I always knew I wanted to be an actor, but I was like, what are you gonna do? Go to Hollywood, be the 1% of people that succeed? How many of those 1% of people are Asians? But got to the point in my life where I said enough was enough and I was gonna go for it. So I'm here in New York and I'm trying to make it, and I'm happy. I'm happy, even if I don't make it.
Coming out of the moments where I was venting, I felt super light. I felt like a lot of those moments where I felt like I wasn't worth it, where I was like, I'm not worth it for anyone, I'm not enough. Those thoughts were finally able to be battled against.
First, take some moments to just slow down with yourself. For yourself, find out what brings you any ounce of happiness, even if it is in your routines, in your daily life.
I'm really intentional to not use my phone when I wake up and go on a walk and breathe fresh air and try to meditate.
So my gym progress is going really well, so that increased my confidence as well, because honestly, I just think it's fun and I like to look at myself a lot, so there's always that.
So you subwayed all the way to Union Square and you're just walking around
Yeah.
on a Friday night?
Yep, exactly. I figured it beats sitting at home, so I don't get like caught up in that like wave of like self-pity and loneliness.
It's pretty self-aware of you.
I try. I mean, if I got nothing, at least I'm self-aware.
Why do you wake up every day? What brings you joy? What has you want to go on in your job? What has you feel connected in your friendships? And having people understand their why and start doing that why more.
I prioritize things that are meaningful to me, because my world flips over very quickly when I'm overrunning myself with things that are not essential to how I want to live.
There's a lot of distractions now. I think it's just constant. We wake up, we look at our phones, we see the news, we see what's going on all around us. It's so easy to be overloaded with information that we can start to feel disconnected and almost numb at times.
How do you process your emotions?
It sounds so weird, but it feels like whenever I'm doing it, like I'm actually like thinking, like I'm actually talking to someone. I'm in bed and I'm yelling out to like someone who's like lying down next to me.
It gives you a recipient to receive the things that you're trying to put out. Is that what?
Sure. Yeah, basically. It makes me feel like, oh, I'm like actually pulling all of this stuff out of my own gut.
I had to surrender so much to the process, allowing all of the uncertainty to exist and the pain to exist. And to surrender to uncertainty and pain is like one of the hardest things to do.
Like, I think that we are both our best advocate, but also one of our worst. We can see really good things about ourselves, but at the same time, we can be overly critical and overly mean. I think sometimes it's hard to be nice to yourself when a lot of stuff is happening around you that you don't have control.
Part of the process of living is going through these emotions and feeling empty and feeling lost and feeling lonely sometimes. And the only thing to do is like be present and experience every emotion, and eventually like you'll find where you want to be headed.
I have faith that I'm going to come home to myself at the end of all of this, and I'm going to be stronger than ever, and I'm going to be more me than ever.
Where does that faith come from?
It's this knowing and connection to like my soul, and also this faith in I'll say God, but I'll also say like this universal like force of love.
What would you say for if someone's watching this video and like they're really on the brink?
I would say that you're not alone, and I know that sounds like a really cliche answer, but in the way that experiencing human suffering is not something that is just you, but it doesn't mean that you have to stay in that suffering.
I guess I'm just really trying to say, just like stay light, don't take everything too seriously, and feel whatever you need to feel. And or if you're having a hard time even feeling to begin with, that's okay too. How about this? There's nothing wrong with you. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. As long as you're like on this earth and you're just like trying to be a good person, that's all you can really do, right?